Good morning, PASW staff, clients, and friends joining us. Welcome to Wednesday's class. I hope you enjoyed Otis Redding yesterday. That was a lot of fun getting into his soul music and rhythm and blues and rock and roll, and just genius of a performer and songwriter and arranger. Today we're going to be doing something so different and so this is going to be a tough class, but I mean, I know you guys can do it. I know we can get through this together. But in researching this class, this is it's going to be hard to explain, but I think with a little help from you guys, I think we'll be able to understand. And it's important that we talk about the American filmmaker who probably invented the independent film genre, John Cassavetes. We know what independent film is, right? Indie films. I made a few indie films. We know that. So John Cassavetes accidentally, I want to say, invented the independent film in a way in the late 50s, in a way that nobody was doing, especially the movie studios. Nobody who wants to make an independent film, because independent film means no money to producers, right? So we're going to talk about his life a little bit, but I'd rather talk about his method of how he used actors and how he wrote his scripts, how he directed, and less, just bullet point facts about his life. So this guy, he only made 9 movies. I mean, born in 1929, died in 89. So lived a pretty short life. Lived till 59 years old. Only made nine movies. But here's what's interesting about him. There's a lot of things interesting. This guy goes out of his way to make uncomfortable movies. His goal as a director is to make the audience feel uncomfortable. Now, what could be more of a way to not get a following, to turn off? You want people to like your stuff, right? He didn't want people to not like his stuff, but he didn't want people to feel comfortable watching his stuff.
So stupid. Well, you know how long I know this jerk?
Mickey, he's just getting sick.
No, not one of these guys who has a few.
I know.
That's it.
He's
Yeah, jerk. Come on out and help the family
That's
responsibilities. And come on out. Let's ball it up, old buddy. That's about it. We don't even know each other. I'm talking about somebody deep down.
That's right.
Up
That's
there.
right. He's gonna cry. Do something.
So the fact that he deliberately wanted to make people feel uncomfortable in his movies seems counterintuitive.
Look, we'll have lunch tomorrow, okay? After lunch, we'll go to a movie or something like that, and maybe.
This is exactly what Hollywood, especially in the 50s, wanted to avoid. Why would you ever want to do something like this? And the characters' lives in his movies, they didn't describe these neatly configured plots. His films, they wouldn't be confused with like these well-made plays or conventional Hollywood formulas. Many times his movies feel like you're overhearing dialogue, and we'll watch some scenes, but sometimes the scenes go on too long, so I don't want to confuse you, but I do want you to see the realness of it. So it's like overhearing dialogue. So again, all of these very anti-Hollywood things. And I don't think he hated Hollywood. He was just, in fact, he used Hollywood as a way to fund his movies. And we'll talk about that. He made a pretty good living in the 60s, saving up money to make the movies he wanted to make. So he was relentless with his exploration and the power of the mystery of the human emotion. I mean, he literally would and the construction of the performance, and they weren't improvisations. He had a tightly written script, but he would allow the actors he would sometimes rewrite the script after rehearsals, and several rehearsals. And his films kind of became kind of the cinema verite, which is truthful cinema, which we have today. But of course that term wasn't back when he was around. So let's just talk a little bit about his life, and we'll get into John Cassavetes. So born in Long Island, New York, and he's Greek. and he starts going to these acting workshops in New York, and he meets his wife, who is a huge part of his work, his life's work, Jenna Rollins. Jenna Rollins, to me, is personally my favorite actor of all time. I think that she's the most underrated, and I think Meryl Streep is fine, but Jenna Rollins is a real deal to me.
I'm not ready to play grandmothers yet. You know, you're very clever. If I'm good at this part, my career is severely limited.
Limited to what?
Once you're convincing in a part, the audience accepts you as that.
As what?
As old, that's what, old.
Are you gonna quit?
No. I'm looking for a way to play this part where age doesn't make any difference. Age isn't interesting. Age is depressing. Age is dull. Age doesn't have anything to do with anything. Listen, Sarah, I don't have a husband. I don't have a family. This is it for me. I mean, I get my kicks out of acting. If I can reach a woman sitting in the audience who thinks that nobody understands anything and my character goes through everything that she's going through, well, I feel like I've done a good job.
She was the lead in most of his films, and his wife, obviously. So the way Cassavetes would do it, so he would star in roles in the 60s to make money. He was Johnny Staccato. He was he was in Rosemary's Baby. He did, B-roll movies. All of this was so he could fund his own films, and by that I mean he would literally shoot in his home. They would shoot on weekends when they couldn't get the equipment. He would grab a light over there. He would literally hold the camera himself, and a lot of his techniques were extreme close-ups or long shots, stuff that Hollywood had no interest in doing. He mortgaged his house several times in order to create his projects.
I'll race you to the corner. Walking, no run.
For how much?
Dime.
A dime, you're on.
You ready?
Yeah.
Get set.
Get set, go!
His films try to depict small feelings, okay? So stay with me. So small feelings often repressed by definitely by Hollywood films. So there was this emphasis placed on this intimate character and the examination rather than the plot and the of what's going on and what's the story about. That's kind of irrelevant. It's more about these feelings that these characters have and how they develop, and not develop in a way that's always pleasant, how they change. And when he was in New York and he had his acting workshop, he created an alternative to the method acting that was so prominent with Brando and James Dean. He wanted something different, so he created, instead of having the characters having a backstory or these narrative requirements that would serve as a basis for the performance, he thought that acting should really be an expression of creative joy and exuberance and spontaneity. So story and technique were secondary to good characters, the strong relationships and strong performances who could find a truth, and that would make Cassavetes' creations come alive,
Bernie, what are we talking about?
Bernie, all right. Listen to me. Half the audience loved the play. The other half hated it. But you're still my favorite star.
That's not what I was
Still
talking
my
about, David. You
favorite
know
star.
that.
Well,
Man.
why?
What are we gonna do?
Look, it's Myrtle's problem. It's up to you, Myrtle, if you want to straighten yourself out. And she's the only one that can solve it.
Listen, you liars. You just shut up. You just shut up and don't
Hey,
talk to me
I'm
anymore.
on the stage with you, right?
What do you think is going wrong?
Nothing.
What do you think? She doesn't think anything's going wrong.
Is it the girl that was killed?
What girl?
No.
The autograph found.
Girl that was killed?
Have you seen her since she died?
Oh, Sarah, please.
No.
Sarah, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. The problem is here with us. Let's not complicate it with Never Never Land.
Look, the name of
So as you can see from some of these examples, it's okay if you're confused, because these movies are long and they're wonderful and they're hard to take in. But as you can see, it doesn't look like a Hollywood movie. It looks almost like a home movie, and nobody else was doing this. And today he's considered a genius, obviously, because in the 90s when the indie movement came about and it was handheld, Cassavetes was doing this in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was doing this. He was saying that there's no excuse not to make the movie. You got a camera, you got a light. I got friends who were great actors. I got Seymour Cassell, I got Peter Falk, I got Ben Gazzara. Those guys are my buddies. They'll come over. I have this script. We're going to act out this scene. We're going to shoot it. We'll take a break. My wife's going to make a big pasta dinner. We're going to eat. We'll take a nap, and then we'll get going back to the scene, and we'll just let the camera roll on for as long as we need to. And that it was a very unconventional way of making movies. So John Cassavetes, really underrated genius, great person, died young of alcoholism, but lived a life, I think, that was just, completely spontaneous and full of exuberance and charm and just brilliance. So let's talk more about Cassavetes when we get back to the studio and his acting techniques and his approaches, because I would like to find out what you think about this too. Okay, so miss you guys, love you guys, and see you tomorrow. Bye.